Are you using it to validate your work, or are you using it to validate your worth? Because if it's the latter, there's a real issue there. Like, that is on, you have to really look at yourself. Why do I care that much? What is that saying?
Welcome back to another episode of the Rising Enquiries. In this one, we're joined with amazing Fiona Grayson, also known as Fee. She dared to go self-employed in 2017, launching a platform which put a spotlight on female entrepreneurs who dared to go solo. From there, in 2020, she's now pivoted her business from midweek mingles and launched the UK's first benefits platform. She has bridged the gap between female founders' ambition and what current business infrastructure fails to offer them. So we're excited to introduce you to this episode.
If you're new here, my name's Leah.
My name's Sia.
We are the co-founders and sisters behind the brand Sinead. Sinead is the ultimate destination for women that want it all. So if you're ready to rise and reach your truest potential, stay tuned.
To start off the interview, obviously we know quite a bit about you during the research of the interview, and that you dared to go solo and work for yourself in 2017.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Can you talk us through that moment and take us back and kind of share your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So, firstly, thanks for having me. I launched You Can She Did in 2017. I just turned 25, and it basically was very much jumping in, not really knowing what it was that I was going to launch. It wasn't a case of, how most people I interview, they have a business idea, like a product, they launch the product. With She Can She Did, it was very much like I was getting more and more frustrated at my old company, not because I literally adored my first job. It gave me so many opportunities, took me around the world, paid really well for my age. I used to produce big finance conferences around the world for a publishing house in the city. But ultimately, the day-to-day reality of that job revolved around finance, and I didn't give two hoots about it, which is, just in any case, skim over that. I had started to notice that more and more young women in their 20s were launching businesses, and I was starting to see that more on social media. But what really bothered me about it was that it was always highlight reels, and it still is so much to this day. But back in 2017, Instagram was glossy, it was just endless, power suits and selfies and just success story after success story, and no one was talking about the nitty-gritty details and how the hell they'd done that, or the privilege that came with it, all of that. And I had grown up in a household where mum and dad walked away from their proper jobs, quote unquote, when I was about 10. So I had really grown up in a household where I'd seen the realities behind the scenes of what actually goes into launching a business. So things like if they were sick, no money came in, or we stopped going on holidays while they were building up businesses. I say it we went on holidays all the time. We went on one a year like most families, do you know what I mean? That just stopped. And even to I remember there was a big Jack Wills phase when I was a teenager, and I always wanted a Jack Wills hoodie and stuff, but mum and dad just couldn't afford things like that, and it just became the norm. So it really bothered me. Fast forward 10 years, and hang on, I can't do maths, 15 years, Christ, when I was 25, and no one was talking about it properly, especially for younger women. So long story short, I was out in Boston for one of the conferences. Day after the event, woke up, checked my emails. An email came in from the London office that just made me realise I'm just done. Screenshotted that, sent it to my big sister, and she just replied being just quit, Fee. You've been saying that you're not happy in this job for about 6 months. That's not like you. I know you're going to figure it out. And it really was genuinely one of those moments where it's oh, hang on, yeah, that makes sense. I've never been the person that complains about my job, that dreads going to work on a Monday. I've always worked hard. It's always been a huge part of my life, and then suddenly I'm starting to be that person that's whinging about their career but not doing anything about it. And anyway, I was out in Boston. I had a day to kill before my flight home that evening, and I wanted to see Harvard Uni, and it was 2 hours from the hotel straight through Boston. It was tipping down with rain, and I remember just walking literally on my backpack on my own, just being okay, if I'm going to quit this job, what can I do? And the whole way there, it just boiled down to like figuring out what I cared about, and that was research, writing, and this knowing that I don't want to go into a career that like the one I'm in now. I always wanted to launch a business one day, but figured I'd do it way later. But if these women are, that means I can too. So how about I just, because I don't know what my business is going to be, how about I just jump in and treat this thing like a project and ask these women to be open and honest with me, and I'll share their stories for women like me that want to launch a business but have no idea how, or want to, learn from others, blah blah blah, and just see where it goes. And it literally, that was a very long-winded way of saying I just jumped in and just worked my 3 months notice, and just started by interviewing, going around the country in my little rusty Corsa and putting the phone on record at coffees and just asking them to share their stories. And I did, and I didn't care at all about things like SEO, probably should have done, but I didn't want the interviews to be like QA and send the questions by email, which I know like it's a quick way of doing it. I wanted to be there in person, have these chats and share their stories in full. And thankfully that those women then shared them without me having to ask, because they had this giant interview that had their whole story there, because I transcribed them at the beginning instead of the podcast, and then it just went from there. So that's how it all started. Wow. I'm so sorry, you're going to have to really like cut me off because I ramble.
No, it's amazing.
That is so inspiring, because I think you touched on loads of points. Not only did you share the point of how you made a transition from your full-time job into the entrepreneurial space, but then you put a spotlight on women, and you had business owners as parents. And I'm like, what point do I even touch on? Because I think women watching this a lot of your story. Do you think that having your parents as entrepreneurs, because I know I can relate to this, where both my parents are business owners, and you see that angle of actually, if they don't make money, the house doesn't get paid, and like there are certain aspects where you have to go without, and you make that transition period. But then also you see like the benefits of it, and like the freedom and how they can work around their own schedule. Do you think in the back of your head, when you made that jump, they had a bit of an influence on your journey?
Yeah, hugely. I think like ultimately mum and dad were so much happier. They both had small businesses. Mum went downstairs and worked in our dining room turned office, and my dad used to be quite worked his way up in Vauxhall, but then just really missed like being like the 18-year-old apprentice working behind the cars. So he just started just fixing Vauxhalls, not Fords or anything like that, God forbid, just Vauxhalls in a workshop at the end of the garden. And so his commute was down at the end of the garden, and mum's was downstairs, and they were genuinely so much happier for it, and they were willing to take those cuts. I think where and they're the I remember ringing mum up when she picked me up from Heathrow the next day and just told her, and she just said, yeah, go for it. Like it wasn't, I remember her being like, but how is that going to make money and all of that? Because ultimately like it didn't for ages, but I knew that in doing so you had to really take the cut, and my whole lifestyle changed. Like I used to be with friends, like I was earning a lot more than my best friends I'd grown up with, and just silly things like I would be the one that picked up a bill, or if we went out for drinks, or it'd be like, my round girls, like I literally can't do rounds anymore. Like that's just a general like thing, and clothes and stuff. Like I can't remember the last time I went on a proper splurge. So, but all of that to me, it's like you have to kind of, mum and dad taught me that like you just have to hold your nerve and you just keep chipping away, and eventually it becomes easier. Hopefully it'll become easier soon. But like, it's just I'm willing to do it. I think where it has been hard is that mum and dad really scaled back, and they were quite happy launching small businesses. And with She Can, She Did, I have always been ambitious, and even though when I didn't know what the end result would be when I launched it, I trusted myself to kind of figure out that this will lead to something. Keep interviewing these women, lay some kind of groundwork here, and the business will figure itself out. But you have to do that groundwork first and get like get an audience of the right like-minded people that you can talk to, and etc., then the business will pop up. And then obviously with the benefits program that we've launched last September, that first popped into my head about 10 months after the interviews, because I'd started to see recurring challenges crop up in every single interview. The lack of security, you don't just walk away from your corporate paycheck, your monthly paycheck each month. You walk away from your pension, your eye tests, your gym memberships, all of that at a time where you're working harder than ever. If you're you want to have kids one day and you're self-employed, what do you do about maternity pay? All of these things. And it just boiled down to that consistent lack of security until your business takes off, and there's no consistent security with being a business owner, and that's just the reality. And I think, with going back to the question, when it came to, I tried to get investment for 2 years in my spare time around the mingles and the podcast and stuff, and I couldn't speak to mum and dad about that. I could, in the sense that, in terms of like a grounding board and like, you can do it for, like, they've always been amazing, like just really encouraging me to go for it. But there was definitely like a transition where it became, okay, I'm going to have to go and find people that can really advise me here, because mum and dad couldn't. They could advise me with the early parts, but yeah, definitely when it kind of went up a notch, that's where I think it was a case of, right, I really need to kind of build a network here, or find some advisors that can really help me how to do this. So, but in general, I am so fortunate that I have parents that have always said, you can be anything in the world but that you want to be, but the caveat is that it won't be handed to you on a plate, and you have to work hard, be decent to people en route, and you'll get there.
Yeah, so it sounds like you do have a really good support network. You had a really good sense of role models around you, and even you mentioned that you were speaking to your sister and she said to you just to go for it. And I think that's so invaluable when you've got family around you that are being supportive of you like that, but then you also know that you have to go and do the work in order to do that. So going back to obviously you used to do the mid-week mingles and things like that, and everything to do with the podcast. What is the one thing you think women watching this would need to hear right now, in terms of, obviously people can't go out and network and the current times and things like that? Like, how do you think women are pivoting in that sense of not being able to be together, but also being able to feel a sense of, connection with others? And I think the internet is great for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think right now it's just such a weird time. I think, like, in linking it, my advice would really be to be very conscious of who you're surrounding yourself with, even online. Like, there is so much noise at the moment, and the online space really values really quite superficial metrics. I've spent January writing about how I just feel like I've got to get it off my chest. When you feel like something's like really bubbling, I'm like, right, and I'm so much more coherent in writing than I am words, so I don't know how this is going to come out, but here we go, let's try. I think online, it really does, like, success equates to the number of followers you have. Like, if I interview a social media influencer over a traditional business owner, no matter how inspiring both stories are, I receive so many messages from friends and the wider She Can She Did audience being like, Fee, you're smashing it, as if you interviewed her, if I've interviewed an influencer, which and that's just across the board. Like, and I just think there needs to be such a refocus, and like, what is success nowadays? Like, genuinely, why are you in this? Who are you in this? Like, who are you doing this for? Are you launching a business because you genuinely are passionate about that business, or are you launching a business because it's a means to personal fame online? Does that make sense? So when it comes to for women nowadays, and the advice, I just think being really, like, honest with yourself about why you're launching this business, and then really trying to, like, actively find people that excuse me, that share those core values, because it's a weird world at the moment. Like, it's just so conflicted, etc., and just being very focused, and anyone that kind of sits like is making you feel odd, or like making you feel like you're not good enough, that you're not worthy enough, just be really selfish and just block it out, or just mute them, like if you don't want to.
I think that's so important.
Yeah, definitely. But like and then also taking it beyond like the COVID lockdown world that we're in now, my general advice to women launching, or even if they've just got a business at any stage, is to just really notice like who are the ones that are really rooting for you, because I say all eyes are on you when you're running a business. Like we're all the world revolves around us, doesn't at all. But like, you're very aware that when you launch a business, people are interested, we're all nosy, and just being very conscious of who's clapping when you win, who's watching but not saying anything, and just acknowledge that, and just kind of let it, like, it's as hard as it is to do sometimes, just rise above it and just focus on looking after the people in return that are looking after you. Because I think it's very easy when you're launching a business, you're trying to get it off the ground, it's like go and blinkers on, but actually you need to remember to be a half decent person to the people that are looking after you as well. So just, that's my advice.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and I know me and Leah can relate to that 100%, because obviously, we're in the early stages of adopting our business. It might have been setting the groundwork for a couple of years, but when you get on social media, it's so easy for when you start to attach your worth to your number of followers, or attach your worth to the number of likes you're getting. And actually, if we weren't as conscious and done all the self-development and know that when you've got your blinkers on, to tune out. And it's not about that, it's about starting with your why and speaking to your audience and knowing what is the reason, why you're doing what you're doing, and then bring it back to that. And I think for women watching this that maybe want to start a business, or they're scared about the number of the likes, what would your advice be to them? Because as you said, surrounding yourself and having that conscious awareness is very important. But I see you do this very well. You don't have that constant upkeep, and you don't have that constant expectation of yourself to be on social media all the time. It's like you will post when it's right for you, you're working your business, you're authentic with your audience. How do you do that, and what would you say is like the best way a woman can adopt that?
I think for me, I've been like privy to the high profile influencer world from day one, like the behind the scenes, and I've seen the amazing that comes with it, and I've also seen the really ugly side of those large audiences. So it's never been something that that I'm chasing. Does that make sense? I think I can so see how easy it is to see people with giant numbers and think, oh my gosh, like in the way that we used to see celebrities back in the day. Now it's kind of like they are the be all and end all. And I've seen it at the mingles, where if there's someone with a large audience, like how the audience dynamic shifts because there's an influencer in the room. And I just think it really just, I think it goes back to like reminding yourself, like, what are you really being honest? Like, what are you online for? What are you on social media for? And if there's so many businesses that really don't need Instagram to survive. LinkedIn is so powerful. I see coffee shop owners and like really small businesses that would be completely overwhelmed if they had 10,000 orders come in. They don't need it to survive, but yet they're worrying and kind of chasing to keep up with an algorithm, because the numbers equate to success nowadays. And it really bothers me, because it's completely shifting like a whole generation of business owners in this direction that, in my opinion, and it really is an opinion, it's not a fact, that to me is so superficial. And so I just think, like, allow yourself to you do not need to constantly be updating, like, and I think that constant pressure to update means that the actual quality of the work that's going up sometimes is just noise. It literally, how many times have we seen someone post about, the number of followers you have doesn't matter, and then the next day they're posting advice for improving your engagement, and it's just kind of like, what is going on?
There's a lot of mixed messaging, yeah.
Oh, hugely. And the same with self-care and all of this, and I just think really ask yourself, does my business actually need 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 followers to survive? I mean, she did got 20k. Does that mean I've got 20k customers on the benefits program? I bloody wish. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd be like flying if I had that. Like, and it's just kind of it's perspective. But I think going back to the question, I just am really, and it's a proper process. Like, I have to constantly check in and be like, no, it doesn't matter, because it is a proven fact that it's addictive. We all are seeking that dopamine hit, because it does feel nice if you get a whole lot of comments telling you how great you're doing. Like, who wouldn't love that? But it is that constant reminding myself, like, genuinely right now there's a real focus on B2B, so I'm trying to spend more time on LinkedIn and really like working on actual brand partnerships. To me, reaching out to people via email, that is so powerful. You can contact anyone via email nowadays. Just move the first or last around, and you can get through the door. But just not really holding myself to this this app that is genuinely, every stat points to the fact that it's so damaging, but yet we're all a bunch of addicts kind of keeping up with it. And don't get me wrong, it is so powerful if your business, if you're seeking to go global, and you're happy to and excited about the prospect of answering to that many people, because you have to answer. If you've got 5 million followers, that's a whole lot of people that have an opinion. If you are genuinely, that's what you want, play the game, because it 100% works and there's millions in it. But taking a step back, I think that not every business owner needs it to survive. Again, sorry.
I think how you answered that, and that the points that you brought up are so true, because I've always wondered myself, if social media wasn't there, obviously it's only been around really since, I think it was about 2007, wasn't it? When Facebook came about. So before that, businesses were surviving just fine without it. And obviously, yes, social media has its benefits, and it's lovely to get the message out there and seeing what value you're putting out there. But yes, it's not about, I need X, Y, and Z in order to feel happy. I need the likes, I need the followers, I need the praise from everyone else just because I've got an influencer coming in. That doesn't put my worth on how good I am at doing my business. And I think you've also said there's LinkedIn and there's other tools, like there's these actual businesses, bricks and mortar, that can survive without it. So you just have to look at the value that you're actually bringing and what you want to share with your community. And I think that's really important that you brought that up. And
I think it's like, are you using it to validate your work, or is it you using it to validate your worth? Because if it's the latter, there's a real issue there. Like, that is on, you have to really look at yourself. Why do I care that much? What is that saying? Because to me, it goes back to, being in school and like, who's the most popular, and you want to be with the popular crowd, but then you don't actually necessarily agree with some of that behavior. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, we all need to just really check in, and actually like check in, see, and take on that advice, and be brave enough to like actually really listen to it, because again, it goes back to the kind of popular, it's easy to kind of go along with the crowd. But I just think, if I don't know, I don't have a point to that.
But I feel like talking to you have such a good self-awareness.
Yes.
And I feel like and we always do it, we always see this in business owners, that not only is it working on your business, but it's working on yourself along the way. As you grow, your business grows, and it's like you've got to protect that vessel yourself in order to grow your business. Do you think that's been important for not only building She Does She Can and then pivoting in the pandemic? Because that changed everything for you, the pandemic, didn't it? What was like some things that you did, and I think other women can take away from this, of like the typical self-care or like the mindset work, having that awareness? Like, what has been important for you in pivoting before we go and talk about like the benefits program?
I think for me, like I think it really goes back to mum and dad just always caveating it with the fact that I can do anything, but you have to work for it, and that it's never going to come easy, and you're going to have to grit your teeth and hold your nerve and push through challenges, and not everyone's going to want you to win and stuff, like all of that. I think going back to just being a teenager and at uni and in my early 20s, like just silly things. I remember being so inspired by people. And, you know, I'd watch the marathon every year and be like, oh my God, like they're amazing. How the hell? And I couldn't run 5K and be like, how the hell do they do that? I really want to do that. Like, I really want to do that one day. And then just really checking in and being like, just sign up for a marathon and then train for it. And then it will be absolutely shit because you can't run free, but just train for it. And then you'll cross the finish line. And bloody, I'm sorry, I oh my gosh, it was the worst few hours of my life. Actually it wasn't, it was like super fun, but my knee hated me. But like, it means that you can cross the finish line and you know that you've done that because you've put all the work in. And I think that anything, like whether when it came to hosting the midweek mingles, even though I've done so much public speaking growing up in school, like I genuinely I've always done it. But I used to just get myself so worked up. My heart would be going, I'd get sweaty palms, my hands would shake. So I'd always ask to like hold on to something. And I remember being like, I really want to host these mingles. Like, I know that they'll be super powerful, but I don't want to host them for the sake of hosting it and not enjoy it. So I went to see a hypnotherapist, and I'm saying to her, like, I'm so skeptical about this. Like, you know, you're just not going to have any work. You're not going to have any success. And she did something to, you know, rewire how my brain thinks when I think about public speaking. And before, it was like I'm not good at it, I'm so nervous, blah blah blah, and I just wanted to think I'm calm, I'm in control, blah blah blah. And suddenly nowadays, you know, someone says public speaking, I just think I'm calm. Like, my brain just tells me I'm calm. And so I guess, to go back to the point, and then, you know, hosted the mingles and off we go. And I think for me, I'm not afraid to push myself out of my comfort zone and go for things that scare me, because I know that, yes, there's going to be a period that's going to be absolutely terrifying, but the feeling at the end of it and what I'm going to learn from it will make it worth it. And when it came to pivoting with the in lockdown to the benefits program, like, I think it just came from 3 years of interviewing women that have opened up to me about their challenges, so I can just fall back on 200 women and their stories and just know that if they can push through that, bloody healthy, you can get on Zoom and try and pitch to some brands for this benefits program, like, perspective. And yeah, just really falling back on like a whole roster of achievements that once terrified me, but I got through it anyway. And I think that in terms of bringing it back to kind of advice for people, just anything, you know, if you set yourself a big I and it's super, super scary, work back from it and do the little baby steps. And, you know, if you, I think sports like a great like example of that, because you do have to train and there is a finish line and off you go. But when it comes to a business, those goalposts are constantly, you hit one goal and then suddenly it's like, right, well, where do I go next? But just kind of running with it, like, and just not chasing this every day is going to be amazing, because it's absolute bull. It won't be at all. But just really breaking down the big goals into lots of little ones, and then it literally is a case of just stop overanalyzing and just do it. Because I think there's someone once described it as an analysis paralysis. Like, you can just sit and kind of talk yourself out of ideas, and that's just like, no, just crack on, believe. Like, it's so cheesy, believe in yourself, but You can do it.
No, I love that. And I think you keep saying as well, like, you know, if she can do it, I can do it. And I think that's a good thing to always know. If someone's out there kind of similar to what you want to be doing, there's so many businesswomen out there and entrepreneurs, it's proven to see that you can do it as well. So it's just having that self-belief, or sometimes you don't even need to have the self-belief, you just have to be willing to take that step and feel that fear and do it anyway, which sounds like you've always had the courage to do that, which is amazing, and have muscle and able to do that also, you know.
Yeah, I think that's where, like, going back to what we were talking about earlier, and like really finding women that genuinely inspire you because they align with your values and stuff, and just really, like, I think that's where all of the nitty-gritty details of how they got started does genuinely matter, because sometimes, you know, we see women in the headlines and you just think, like, how the hell have they got there? But it's just really the more we can be doing to open up about how we've done that, whether it is a case of actually there was shitloads of money behind me because I inherited it, but that's my story, or it's a case of once upon a time worked with this person and they introduced me to that person and I'm so lucky that I had that contact because off we went. Like, just being really honest about it and just taking those barriers away, because it will help. But what I think is really damaging is when people kind of tiptoe around that, like, and it's sort of like, I've said from day one, you know, I ran out of money around 5-6 months in because I had some savings, and then I have a mortgage. Granted, it's not a London one, it's about £460 a month, but I couldn't afford it. So my sister paid my mortgage for about 5 months. And then the minute the mingle tickets came in, it was a case of, okay, the tickets, that goes straight to that. And I literally have paid my bills and nothing else to get this off the ground. But I'm so lucky that my sister paid my mortgage for, because I wouldn't have a clue what to do. And it's just being honest about it, and not trying to, like, kind of make out that you've kind of got to where you are with absolutely no help at all, because that's where people that genuinely don't have that help are like, well, why isn't it working for me? So yeah,
big point I think you touched on, because we get this a lot, and it's like, me and Leah are obviously sisters. I went straight out of uni into Janae from, like, having that, oh, you go to the secure job. No, that's not what I'm choosing now. It's you're building your business from the ground up. Leah's obviously working.
Yeah, I still hold down my job whilst doing this as well, and the building pays, and I share that. So, you know.
Yeah, I think it's so important to be honest, because it's not, for some people it's like, yeah, that you have that inheritance money, own it. For some people they're not sharing the behind the scenes. They're not sharing all the sacrifices they had to make. They're not sharing, like, the moments where they didn't know what steps they're going to take next. And then they get to that and it's like, I'm here. But I think it's so important as business owners, as women, and just as people, to show, like, your real authentic self and build a business from that standpoint. And I think you do that really well. Like, you've been honest from day done. I think not only does that inspire women, that inspires other female business owners. And that links into what's been your biggest challenge from pivoting from She Did, She Can. I know you said you're going to bring back mingles and everything like that. And then you've launched the benefits, the UK's first benefits program. What has been your biggest challenge, would you say?
Honestly, the 2 weeks after the benefits program launched last September was so tough, because even though I know the realities of things, it's so still easy to get caught up in, like, what you want, how you want it to go. And the reality was we were in a pandemic, and I had also spent 4 months literally not paying any attention to social, because everything was focused to get the benefits program off the ground. For some context, we launched with just over 50 big brands on board, ranging from, like, the, you know, pensions and health cover, and to, like, Pure Gym and Vodafone, and like they all had to have conversations. So that was where my focus was. And then just building the platform with, like, I had 2.5 grand in the bank when we went into lockdown last March, because always feel like people forget I'm a small business, and like the London mingles went ahead, so I got a sponsorship payment there, but then I had to cancel Brighton and Cardiff, so I missed out on 2 sponsorship payments, had to refund the tickets that sold for Brighton and Cardiff, and then I had about £2.5 in my bank. Then went straight into the We Can We Will daily podcast series because I needed some money, but also generally, like, that was a case of, this is such a weird time, let's chat to the women and get them talking about how they are adapting to this, because we can literally find a way to get through this, but it will, that was never a doubt in my mind, but it means it will be uncomfortable, blah blah blah. And thankfully, on the back of a LinkedIn post, Tide reached out and sponsored that, so I had a bit of money come through there. But then I still had to get this thing off the ground, knowing I couldn't do it myself, and had women lined up that if I was to get investment, I'd pay them X amount of money because they deserve it. But then I suddenly had to get this thing off the ground without all of this money, and had to do the, chat with lawyers about what share options look like if I couldn't pay them, and all of this kind of stuff. And long story short, it was just a manic 5-6 months before we launched, head down, and then you put everything into it, and then it doesn't take off, and you just believe in it so much, and it's kind of like, what, like, and just, I think what really was hard about that, or in hindsight, what I've learned from that is that I genuinely I've chucked everything at She Can She did for 3 years, and then I had been holding out hope from the minute that it popped into my head in 2018 that when the benefits program, I'd always kind of thought I'd get investment for it. When that launches, it will be different. Things will be different for me on a personal level as well, because I've been broke for 3 years, and you're working so hard. And I think I hadn't taken the time to shift my expectations from what the launch of the benefits program would look like if I had a lot of money behind me and an investor to like hold my hand and kind of guide me through it, compared to what a benefits program would look like when I had £2.5 in the bank, and I had to completely abandon I chose to abandon all kind of social while I was head down building it, and then launch it, and it just didn't take off in the way that I wanted it to. And don't get me wrong, it's growing every month, but it's growing in like baby steps. It's going up, but it's not like in the like I said earlier, if I had 20,000 people on it, I'd be laughing. But it's just that managing the expectations, and I think I hadn't left any energy for the post-launch. And what I think everyone gets so excited about is launching a business. But once you launch, that's when the hard work begins, because then you've got to actually run and grow the business. And I had nothing left, and I was like running on autopilot, and I wasn't sleeping. I was so like stressed and trying to navigate what had happened. All the while we have weekly events and stuff, so hosting those for the business owners using it, and just completely burnt out. And but like, I feel like that phrase is kind of chucked around these days, but just my partner is literally amazing, and my family and the team, and they all just like, Fee, like, give yourself a break and just take a step back, and just like, you don't need to be giving this, not giving it everything, but it's not going to get anywhere unless I get some sleep and I look after myself. And I think as well, like, you learn from it. And I've always felt like I look after myself quite well, and I've got a good relationship with myself. I quite like who I am, and I normally check in and I'll listen to my body, but I didn't recognize myself, and that was that was 100% the toughest thing ever. But I think it really taught me so much about going back to like, who are you doing this for, and is it making you happy? And if it's not, why are you doing it? And it means that from there I'm just focusing on like the really building a business that also I want to be running, like, and yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot more.
Oh, I don't even like, that was a mic drop just there.
Yeah, it was.
Like, we all relate to that so much. Like, it's like you've got to be working on the business and in the business at the same time, because as that entrepreneur, you've got to wear both hats. And it's like you're in that vision, you're in like tunnel vision mode of like, I've just got to build this and build this and build this. And I think launches can be like so exhaustive of burning you out. And I know that so many people watching this will relate. What was one thing that you would say from that and from doing that launch that you would say, women, listen to this? Like, what would you say?
I just think it just goes back to like, it's why I find the world of social media just so superficial, because I think had I wanted to play the game when we launched, I could have quite easily been like I've posted about how I like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, thank you so much, you're at like I'm in like shop, blah blah blah, and thousands and thousands of you, like you can make it out so easily. And that does, when you see brands talking about how much they've made that month, and how all of these kind of, I've just had a 50k month, all right love, but like it's kind of, you have to just really remember that all of that is marketing, and it makes people think, oh, she's doing well, maybe I need to check this out. But I think from day one, like you said earlier, I've really tried to, like, honesty is like, if I wasn't honest about how that went, I would literally just have completely contradicted everything, all of the interviews and the message I've been trying to share for 3 years. And so I think it just really, when it comes to advice, is just not being afraid to kind of like face that reality head on, and really take all of these launches online with a pinch of salt, because some people are having incredible success, but they've also worked ridiculously hard to get there, or they've dedicated 10 hours a day to a social media platform. And it's kind of just, you have to really again check in with yourself about what are you willing to do for that launch, what behavioral traits are you willing to embody to become the person, if you want a certain end goal, especially if it's coming from line, like who are you becoming when you're posting stuff like that. And just really, I think it boils down to like checking in with who am I doing this for, and does it make me happy, and just applying that to every single metric, that every single goal with the business. And just as long as you're giving it your best shot, and you know that you've done the best job that you could have done, and then you're being honest about it, then it's never going to come back and haunt you. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. If I'd have said that we launched with 10,000 business owners that jumped on that, the brands would be asking me like, well, hang on a second, well, why aren't they signing up and opening a pension, or why aren't we seeing them, order their bloom and wildflowers, like how is that lining up? And then I'd be the person being like, oh well, do you know what I mean? And it's, I think, honesty at every stage with both your audience and yourself is really important.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely amazing. You've touched on so many wonderful things, and I think with She did then launching the benefits program, and even having like the first benefits program in the UK, that's such an amazing achievement. And I know obviously you're still working and building on that, which I'm sure it's going to grow massively. And I think it's so beneficial for lots of women out there that really need something like that, and everything that your brand represents, and even building that network of women that need something like that. And you're shining a light on like the truth of what it takes to actually run a business. So what is your favorite thing about running She did with the benefits program? What's a typical day look like for you?
I think my favourite thing is literally, I mean, corny as hell, but like the messages we've received about it from the people using it and anyone, when you get good customer feedback, it's like, oh, that's why you're in it, right? And especially like we provide at the moment like health cover where the business owners can literally access straight, they skip the queues, they don't have to leave the house, and they can access GPs and medical experts from their phone and don't have to pay for it. It's one of the free things, and like that in the pandemic, like the messages we got off that have been like, okay, no, that's actually genuine, that's actual value, and like that makes me feel like we're onto something good. In terms of like, even when it gets really, really hard, I know that I control the reins, so you can kind of pull it back, and you can, if I wanted to, I could, launch some crazy idea tomorrow or completely, rebrand or do anything like that's never going to go away. That's us on us, and I really relish that. In terms of a typical day though, like at the moment I'm literally head down just writing, because I just feel like there's a lot that I feel so conflicted with the space that we're operating in at the moment, of which I've touched upon at the moment, and I feel like I just want to really make it clear what she did, where I stand on this, and at the moment that means that I'm literally writing is one of them, like I just feel super trying to find the words and stuff, but I always find it really cathartic, so I'm just trying to get that out and just taking the time out to just do that, because there's a million and one things that could be done, but it goes back to just reminding myself like what I actually care about. So just finding the time at the moment to write, and I hope they'll kind of share that, and it goes back to that perspective, 10 people could read that and it doesn't matter. It's like, if that makes a difference to them, then that is worth it. But I just feel like I need to get it off my chest, so like that's what I'm doing at the moment. And then just, I guess it could be interviews, it could be reaching out to brands. It's a very B2B, I'm trying to get a big kind of partnership on board at the moment, so just a lot of trying to connect with people on LinkedIn and sending some hopeful emails. And then obviously we have the weekly event, so I'll host an event each week. And then like yesterday I was talking on a panel with NatWest about how we can kind of connect, do more to redefine success, but also to bring all of these networks together that are helping on advancing the cause for women. Because I always say, you can share a motivational quote on Instagram, but it means absolutely nothing if you're not willing to engage with the reality that awaits the people that you're trying to inspire. So how can we foster more kind of collaboration between all of these different groups? Because it 100% doesn't fall on one woman to fix this for us. It is a massive collaborative effort. So it's just, honestly, it's just a bit of a bit of this and a bit of that, and I just hope that it kind of adds up and it just keeps chipping away.
You're so inspirational, Fee.
Completely.
Your authenticity, your honesty. I think if there's one thing that women watching this will take away, it's just to own who you are and own your journey and stay true to the vision. And I think that's so important for any woman watching this, whether they're an entrepreneur or whatever direction that they want to go in. But before I ask you your closing question, for women that are watching this and they're wanting to rise and reach their truest potential, whether that be on an entrepreneurial aspect, they're just getting started, or that angle where they've been building something and they've got that expectation, they're not where they thought they would be, what would you say they need to hear right now?
I'm reading Obama's book at the moment, and he talks about I know his second book was called it, but the Audacity of Hope, and it's really in the world that we're in at the moment, and the online world and the real world, it is so kind of, there's so many different things pulling you in, so many different our attention in all different directions, and there is so much noise, and there's so many, it feels angry. Biden coming in has helped a lot, but last year felt angry, and I think it's so easy to feel overwhelmed, and it's so easy to feel like you're like, when is this going to pay off? How much more can I give to this? Why aren't people getting it, you know? And I think I just honestly, to that, I just say you've got to, if you believe in something, it's so bloody hard, like it genuinely is. If you believe in something, you just have to just, again, block out the noise and go back to why are you doing this and why do you care, and just chip away. And like, and this all ties up to everything we've been saying. Surround yourself with people that really, like, you can trust, that aren't like, when you talk to them, they're not like, oh, how's that little, like, how's your little thing going, like, how's that? And you know, those people, no, you can just like block that out. And the ones that watch and aren't saying anything, block that out. But the people that are literally rooting for you, and that you're saying, I'm having a really shit day, and they're saying, like, just keep going, like, you've got this. I've said to my partner the other day, he's so great, because he just says to me, like, he's like, Fee, I'm not worried. Like, I am not worried about this at all. Like, if I was worried, I would tell you. And I know he would. You need people that back, like, they get you and they back you, and just, yeah, keep tuning into, like, why you're doing it. Don't never lose that sense of why, and sense of hope that it is possible, and just make sure that you're very selective over who you're falling on for support, because there's a lot of people that will want you to lose, like they won't want you to win. And unfortunately, I haven't had loads of those people. I've had a few, and you can just sense it, and it's just a case of, like, that needs to just, that needs to go. And just
bad vibes.
Yeah, bad vibes.
No, I absolutely love that, and the message throughout this whole interview has been just staying true to self, caring about who you're surrounding yourself with, and what no longer serves you and what does serve you, and what what values you want to bring and why you're doing it. And I think that's the key thing for this. So to bring it to a close, and this is a question we love to ask everybody, who has been the most influential person on your journey and how they impacted you? It could be anyone, could be a group of people. What does that look like for you?
Yourself.
Can you imagine if it's like me?
Last but not least, I want to thank me. I want to thank me for believing in me. I want to thank me for doing all this hard work.
I think my sister, to be honest. Like, my sister's, I've got a big sister, and she like, I met my partner 2019, but my sister, I remember 2 weeks into launching She Can, she did, like, hysterically crying in my bedroom, about, like, what the hell have I done, because I was about to go into London and interview someone, and I just didn't want to go, and I remember just being like, oh Christ. And literally every single moment I've had like that, my sister's just been like, I believe in you, just keep going, I trust you, just keep going. And I mean, I could say, like, don't get me wrong, every single woman that I've interviewed, when they open up, and sometimes they open up about, like, stories that just, goosebump stories where you're like, oh my God, you're so strong. Like, one of the We Can We Will interviews last year, obviously it was all happening, like, because they were daily, it was like real time. So the first, like, 2 weeks of those interviews were when recorded just before Boris announced lockdown, and then by week 7 we'd all started pivoting, and we were, like, a lot more, like, aware of what was going on. But I think one of the ones, I think I chat to Rosie in, like, the first week or two, and I've interviewed her. She's one of the first women I ever interviewed back in 2017, but she'd become a mum 3 weeks before we went into lockdown, and her business, which is like one of the most overwhelming chapters in any woman's life when they become a mum for the first time, and then her business, she has 2, like, she lost 90% of the business, the main money maker. Literally within the space of a couple of days, all of these contracts were pulling out, and she has a team of 5 or 6, and she had to deal with all of that, like, being a decent manager, having a 3-week-old at home, and just something that she worked on so hard literally pulled beneath her, because that was the first business. Like, how do you not feel like that to me provides perspective. That's a case of like, okay, well, you know, if I don't want to go and catch the train into London to interview someone, but she's gone through that, like, slap around the face some perspective and just get on with it, because there's so many stories I could fall back on like that, but yeah, they keep me going as well. But yeah, there's something about big sister. Tia, I'm sure you have it with Leah, but they're pretty special.
It is true, and I can resonate, and I know Leah, because like it's just something about that sister bond, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we're so close as well, and you sound like you're really close with your sister.
You can't really put it into words, I don't think, and it's like they just know, and it's vice versa, and they're there when you need it the most, and like them moments, and we have it, it's like you can check yourself, but I think your sister checks you on a whole different level in a sense of like, you've got this, like, believe in yourself. And all the moments when like you're crying and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I was like finishing uni, and I was like, I don't want to go into the 9-to-5 world. It just does not resonate with my soul. Like my whole body just rejects it. And it's like, I remember like crying and being like, I can't do this anymore. And Leah just being like, you've got this. Like, I think to sum this up, and the points you have touched on, I think for some women, it will give them that goosebump feeling of, wow, I needed to hear this today. So thank you so much, Fee, for being on this Woman Rising series. And for women that watching this that want to connect with you, where's the best place to find you? Where can they sign up to the benefits program? Share it all with us, and I think they'll love to hear it.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, I just I've loved this chat so much. So thank you. I felt like it was like a proper therapy. It was good. Where can they find us? So shecanshedid.com, and obviously just it's actually Canshedid for everything, really. So it's quite easy. But no, thank you both so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you guys for watching this episode. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the bell icon and like and comment so you never miss another video. You can find all of our links in the description box, and we will see you in the next episode.